everyone, Jeremy here, and for today's port preview, we head to the picturesque island in the Gulf of Thailand, Koh Samui. Now, visiting this island can feel like you're stepping right into a tourism brochure. Koh Samui is one of Thailand's most famous islands, and for good reason. Its beach-fringed coast is edged by vivid blue water that is a playground for snorkelers, paddleboarders, and divers. Now, inland are incredible green spaces with hikes to waterfalls and mountainous viewpoints. And all around the island, amazing Thai food can be found at restaurants, open-air markets, and street food stalls. Now, the island itself is believed to have been first inhabited approximately 15 centuries ago, settled by fishermen from the Malay Peninsula and southern China. It appears on Chinese maps dating back to 1687 under the name Pulau Konam. The name Samui is also mysterious in itself. Perhaps it's an extension of one of the native trees, mui. Some people also believe that the word Samui derives from the Malay word saboi, or safe haven. Koh is a little bit easier to explain. It is the Thai word for island. Until the late 20th century, Koh Samui was an isolated, self-sufficient community having very little connection with the mainland of Thailand. The island was without roads until the early 1970s, and the 15-kilometer or 9-mile journey from one side of the island to the other used to involve a whole-day trek through the mountainous central jungles. Koh Samui's economy initially grew with the exports of rubber and coconut, a tree that you'll see absolutely everywhere around the island. Now, tourism is by far its #1 economic driver and has led to major changes to the island's environment, culture, and infrastructure. In fact, whilst the island has a population hovering around 65,000 people, it receives on average 1.5 million annual visitors. Whilst many arrive into the airport on the northeastern side of the island, a significant number do arrive via the ferries from the mainland into the port town of Nathon on the west coast of the island, using the same piers that the cruise ship tenders into. Nathon is the island's main port and serves as both a key arrival point onto the island and also the departure point for travelers taking ferries to nearby islands such as Koh Tao, which is very popular for diving, places like Koh Phanang, which is famous for young backpackers going to the full moon parties. It is also the launching point for tours heading out to the stunning Thong Marine National Park, which we'll cover a little bit later. It is important to note that there is no cruise ship dock here due to the very low waters surrounding the island. So not only do ships have to tender in here, it is typically quite a long ride. So expect generally 30 minutes each way once you're in the tender boats. Now, depending on the cruise line, most companies use a combination of their own boats as well as assistance from some larger shoreside boats. Now, either way, just note that there is often steps getting both in and out of these boats, both from the ship and also when you arrive shoreside. So just keep that in mind from a mobility standpoint. Now, when coming ashore, if on tours, your minibuses will likely be right on the pier. Now, due to the smaller roads that you find here in Koh Samui, often you're in these small buses holding maybe 8 to 12 people rather than those large style coaches that you see elsewhere. Now, if you are doing your own thing ashore, you'll be greeted by many local drivers with these laminated signs offering different day tours. Now, if you do need local currency, down towards the end of the pier is the main ferry terminal, which is this open air building that does have a currency exchange. Now, they also have a restroom available, but they do charge 5 Thai baht, so it is best to change money first if you do need to. Now, just a tip too, if you use these bathrooms, just make sure to ask for toilet paper before you go in. Whilst quite developed, Nathon is very much an arrival point to get out and explore the island rather than a tourism hotspot in itself. Now, in town you'll find restaurants, convenience stores, gas stations, money exchange services, shops, and small hotels. But if you really want to get a feel for this place, you're going to need some form of transport, whether it be independent or by taking a tour. Now, I'll show you where the sites are and where they're located around the island, and then we'll touch on some transportation options afterwards. So let's start by taking a look at a map. So here you can see the whole island. Now, to get an idea of its size, Samui is 88 square miles or 228 square kilometers in area. As you can see here, there is Buddhas to beaches and just about everything in between. Now, due to the long tender rides to and from the ship, time on the island can actually be quite limited, so it is recommended to try not to do too much and just pick a few things that you are really interested in. So let's take a look around. Firstly, a couple of the prominent Buddhist sites. Located in the northeast of the island is Wat Phra, also known as the Big Buddha Temple, due to it being home to a giant 12-meter or 39-foot gold-painted Buddha statue. Since being built in 1972, it has become this major landmark and a popular spot for visitors. Just note though, to get to the top, there is the equivalent of roughly 2 flights of stairs. You can still see the statue from the base though if stairs aren't really possible for you. Now it is free to visit too, and there are lots of souvenir shops and food stalls at the base. Only a short distance away is the newer and very unique Wat Phra Lem. Built in 2004 on a man-made lake, this active Buddhist complex is one of the most attractive that you're going to see on the island. Most of the buildings are designed using a Thai Chinese influenced style of architecture, and prominent statues here include Guan Yin, which is the goddess of mercy and compassion, which has 18 arms. Guan Yin is revered in much of East Asia and is known as the protector of women and children and of the sick and poor. You'll also see a statue of a large-bellied, smiling Buddha on the lake. In Chinese culture, a fat Buddha represents wealth and prosperity. Whilst there are several other buildings to explore here, the whole site can easily be covered in less than an hour. Now, whilst it's free to enter, donations are appreciated to help maintain the complex. Alright, from Buddhas, we now head to the beaches. Now, whilst you'll arrive on the western side of the island, really the best beaches are definitely over on the eastern side. So expect around 30 minutes or so by vehicle to get over there. And some of the most prominent beaches that you'll find along the northern coast, such as Mae Nam and Beaufort, are possible. However, they can be pretty tidally impacted and also be affected at times by seaweed. So if you only have one day and you really want to get out and see the beaches, I definitely recommend heading over to either Chaweng, which is the most developed and most popular, or our preferred option, which is Lamai. Now, both have the ability to rent beach equipment or get a day pass at a local resort, and both have lots of nearby food options for a nice local Thai lunch. Now, the reason we like Lamai a little bit better is that Chaweng is a little bit more of a party area. Lamai at night can be that way too, but it's just a little bit more relaxed by daytime. Also, for a tip too, if you do go to Lamai Beach, make sure to stop in at the Lamai Street Food Market. Here you can get great local curries like Penang, Green, Masaman, or noodle dishes such as Pad Thai or Pad See Ew, anywhere from between about 60 to 120 baht, which is about $2 to $4 equivalent. They also have great mango sticky rice and fresh fruit smoothies too. Now, if lush green interiors are more your thing, I'm going to suggest 3 different waterfalls for you: Hin Lat, Nam Wang 1, and Nam Wang 2. Now, all of these are a little bit different to each other. You can swim at the base of all 3, however. Hin Lat, at roughly 4 miles or 6 kilometers away, is the closest to the port town of Nathon. It is more of kind of a natural hike to a waterfall, as from the parking area it's roughly 1 mile or 1.5 kilometers through nature to get to the waterfall. Whilst pleasant and with only slight inclines and declines, please note that it's not a smooth path. You do at times have to climb over rocks and even under fallen trees at certain moments, so a decent level of fitness is required for this. Also keep in mind high humidity too, so make sure to stay hydrated. Once at the end though, it is a nice natural pool if you do want to take a dip. Now, once you get back to the parking area, there's also plenty of opportunities to buy drinks at the local stores there to rehydrate if you do need to. Nam Wang 1 is by far the most, let's say, tourist-centric of the 3, and also the most impressive pure waterfall. It is often the most popular to visit because, quite simply, it's the most accessible. It's only a very short walk from the parking area. It is also the site where you can take elephant rides, which, and while we do recommend doing your own research here on this, isn't really something that we can endorse. Now, Koh Samui has a number of animal attractions, many of which aren't the most ethical. Now, if you do want an elephant experience here on the island, a better option would be the Elephant Jungle Sanctuary Samui, which is actually a wildlife refuge towards the northern side of the island. Now, as for the waterfall itself though, from the parking area, it is only a short walk past the souvenir stalls and down some steps to be at the base of the waterfall. And as you can see here, it is a popular swimming spot. Now, even if you don't wish to swim, you can just sit on the surrounding rocks and just take in the view. Now, the third option is really the most adventurous, and it's just along the road a little bit further from Nam Muang 1, and that is Nam Muang 2. This is by far the most strenuous of all three, and because of this, it typically has the least number of visitors, meaning you kind of get the chance to have it all to yourself. Now, after parking, you do have an uphill road to navigate, or you can park a little bit closer and begin the journey across these, let's say, sturdy looking bridges. From there, it is an uphill climb that can take anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes, and then you're greeted by this smaller waterfall into this natural infinity pool. Now, it's such a remote spot that is definitely one for the more active, adventurous types, and where the journey is really just as important as the destination. Now, you can see here from this aerial footage just how elevated and deep into the jungle this is. Now, speaking of jungle sites, there is one more on the island that I want to mention. Up a steep road into the middle of the island lies a lesser visited, but very intriguing spot. Due to the road to get there, you won't often see really any organized tours here. Now, hidden away in the hills is the secret Buddha Garden, or also known as the Tanim Magic Garden. This site was the creation of an old Samui fruit farmer named Nim Thong Suk, who, in 1976, began erecting several statues and temples around his family's property. The statues depict a number of animals, deities, and humans in various poses, including one of Nim himself in a relaxed position sitting on a rock. Now, Nim continued to work developing his garden all the way up until his passing at the age of 91. Now, it's a super interesting place, but again, you might have to visit this independently rather than on a tour. However, one place that on a cruise ship that really does require a tour to visit, and for me one of the most spectacular places of all to visit here, is the Ang Thong Marine Park. Located 19 miles or 31 kilometers off the coast of Koh Samui, the Ang Thong Marine Park is made up of 40 beautiful, almost uninhabited islands covering an area of 39 square miles or 102 square kilometers. It's often referred to as the tropical Ha Long Bay, as there are the submerged peaks of limestone mountains that rise as high as 6,000 feet. The island's pristine beauty is due to being preserved by the Royal Thai Navy and was actually off limits until 1980 when it was declared a national marine park. Whilst there are overnight tour boats and local ferries that go out to the islands, based on the timing of a cruise ship's port of call into Koh Samui, a tour through your cruise line may really be the only option here. This is because the other public boats generally leave earlier than a cruise ship's arrival and are also much slower than the high-powered speedboats that the tours use. On a day trip out to the islands, you can go snorkeling, relax on white sand beaches, or go up on a hike to the viewpoints to take in a look at the islands from up above. It really is an amazing place, but again, for a cruise ship call, a tour definitely is your best bet. Okay, speaking of how to get around, let's now talk about the options. So as we mentioned earlier, transport really is required here. Firstly, most cruise lines will offer tours to many of the places that we have discussed so far in this video. Now, whilst tours can be a little bit more expensive than getting around on your own, the pros here are for a port such as this with a really long tender ride, tours generally mean getting off the ship earlier and maximizing your time ashore. Now, additionally, for those people who don't like large tour groups, often here in Koh Samui, you get around in these smaller minivans, which we talked about earlier, which is a nice bonus. And if you don't want to take a tour, you will be greeted locally by many drivers offering you trips around the island. If you go into the day with a game plan of what it is that you want to see, and you want to save a little money along the way, you could actually walk down to the end of the pier and take a local taxi instead. Now, whilst you won't get as much, let's say, guided tour information, it will be a cheaper form of transport. Now, the ride-sharing app Grab is also available in Koh Samui. However, on a recent 2024 visit, we found that it actually wasn't much different in price than regular taxis, and in some cases, it was actually more expensive than a metered taxi rate. So you got a few options there. If you want the cheapest, most independent option in Nathon, there are multiple places you can actually rent a car or a motorized scooter and drive yourself around. Now, you can normally pick up a car rental for the day in US dollars, roughly around $30 equivalent, and for a scooter, even less than $10 per scooter rental. Now, speaking of money, the currency here is the Thai baht. Now, it will help to have some local currency here, as more places prefer cash payments than credit cards. Exchanges are found down towards the end of the pier at the main ferry terminal, and you can also find multiple currency exchanges throughout Nathon and around the island. So there you go, there's an introduction to Samui that hopefully has provided some helpful tips on how to get the most out of your visit to this amazing island. Now, if you have found this video useful in any way whatsoever, please do us a favor and click that subscribe button that you see down the bottom. It just helps us grow this channel. So thanks very much for watching, everyone, and enjoy your time on the island.